Welcome, friends. Welcome to another edition of More Bad News, brought to you, as always, by Camel Cigarettes. Take the Camels Challenge, smoke Camels for 30 days, and see for yourself what a difference Camels can make in your life. Well, my friends, you know that the only thing we sell here at the show is Camels. We don't sell hope, and we don't sell deodorants. And the only advice that I have for you is take the Camels Challenge. If you don't, you'll never know. Well, my friends, it's been another week of very bad news. The New York Times reports on the ballot in Iowa, fear, anxiety, and hopelessness. Ahead of Monday's caucuses, voters are throwing around the prospect of World War III and civil unrest, anxious of divisions they fear are tearing the U.S. apart. Well, that can't be good. Whatever happened to faith over fear? I mean, these people are supposed to be evangelicals. Anyway, the U.S. strikes the Houthis in Yemen, and the strikes increased last week in the expanding war in the Middle East. This isn't a war in Gaza. It's a war in Gaza and Yemen, Lebanon, the general area. Israel is defending itself against charges of genocide, arguing that what they are doing in Gaza is not genocide, despite the government's official despite government officials' statements to the contrary. Hey, we aren't going to nuke Gaza. If we nuke anybody, it'll be Iran. So that was just wishful thinking on the part of a few of the more radical members of the Israeli government. The same people who are bringing to you the judicial reform. In that case, they're trying to convince us that they're not trying to nuke Israeli democracy. We haven't given the Middle East war enough coverage here, but it's very difficult for me to accept this final blow against the Jews. I mean, do we really need to be at the center of a global confrontation over oil? Why couldn't we be innocent victims like the Inuit and Yanomami? Why couldn't God have led us to the Arctic and we could have lived in igloos and be happy ever after? We didn't need the Inquisition for this. Let's see what else. Trump calls the January 6th rioters hostages, and the Republican Party is all in, just like the Confederate States of America were all in on slavery. And to tell you the truth, it's really the same issue. It's white supremacy, and we're doing it over again. Federal law enforcement reports that bomb threats, death threats, all kinds of threats against judges, government employees, teachers, nurses, it's up by over 50%. I reported a few weeks ago that we had an active shooter incident alert at the elementary school. It was just a glitch, but the threat level is so high that everybody is incredibly on edge. I lived with death threats throughout my entire academic career. I used to get emails, snail mails, phone mails, messages, nobody seemed to like what I had to say. So, I mean, this is a real nice little niche that I have here on YouTube, where it's just a small number of people who listen to me and they don't want to kill me. It's progress. I mean, I think it's good. So last week, a regular to this channel commented, I've noticed that even mentioning COVID, and this is slightly edited, I've noticed that even mentioning COVID in mixed company is as charged as bringing up religion or politics, since people have come to feel as passionately about it. It's so strange to me. We once again have hospitals packed with COVID patients, and yet still people are in such denial. My sister has taken to telling people that she was exposed to someone with COVID to explain why she was wearing a mask in public. I've never fully understood why people will eye me as if I'm offending them personally by protecting myself. But the lack of masks in the medical field has been the source of my greatest disappointment in humankind. I go to get a mammogram, and they put these machines in these little closet-like rooms. I'm in close quarters with a technician, and they're never wearing a mask. Even as they get right beside me and reposition my arm and cheek, What if I did have cancer? My whole immune system would be weakened and compromised. My sister has had all of her vaccinations all up to date, and recently she got COVID for the second time because she's around people who take no precautions at all. Last time she got it, she lost half of her hair, a sense of taste, and developed a growth on the back of her brain. Who knows what's going to happen this time? The symptoms are less onerous because now they have medications that are apparently having an effective at reducing the acute phase, but it doesn't do anything with the long-term phase. I don't go many places anymore. I'm sure I go more places than you do, being an even higher risk than I am, but I am horrified by how many people I know who continue to attend crowded indoor venues without masking and think nothing of it. Hope is hard to cling to, but I suspect that I'm not really built to sustain despair indefinitely. Thank you. I probably should have given you a heads up and asked if it's all right to read that. I hope you don't mind. Um, Back in the day, I would spend, when I was in my 20s, I would spend weekends at an ashram in upstate New York, where I'd spend a weekend in silence and fasting, either Friday, Saturday, or Saturday and Sunday. And I would sit in the meditation room basically all day long. And usually around 10 o'clock, people would come in. They would enter quietly and everyone would take a seat, on the floor, and they would begin their own meditations. You could feel the room filling with people, but then Roshi would come in and he would sit down, and with my eyes shut and the room already filled with people, his entrance uh, might have gone unnoticed, but that was never the case. It was obvious when he arrived. Everything changed. And I began to feel the boundaries of my ego dissolving. I felt like I was floating on the floor. Nothing was ever said. This wasn't a lecture. Something similar, however, happened to me with my martial arts master, Nobuyoshi Higashi. Mr. Higashi was a fifth degree black belt and twice won the All Japan Championship in martial arts, which is a contest that involves all levels of martial arts. You have to be good at judo, karate, kendo, and even making a cup of tea, which in Japan is a martial arts. Not everything has to hurt. He was a Buddhist and he hardly spoke. And he would call out one of the black belts, the younger black belts, to demonstrate a move, and the young black belt would explain the different kinds of things that you need to focus on when you're doing this particular move. But then when we broke into grappling, you might, if you were lucky enough, you might have a chance to grapple with the master. Coming that close to the master takes a lot of courage. Understand that I was young and strong and trained, but there was nothing that I could do to knock him off his balance. I might as well have been, grappling with Muhammad Ali. The only rule was that once you bowed in, you waited for the master to dismiss you, and God help you in the meantime, because you might as well have been trying to throw a mountain. All you were going to do is exhaust yourself, and how exhausted depends on Mr. Higashi. So that when you could no longer stand up or try anything, Mr. Higashi would lay you gently on your back on the mat, and then he'd lay on top of you. Now you're exhausted on your back and you can't breathe. And you still have no hope of getting this mountain off of your chest. All I know is that I have to try something or I'm going to die. Well, folks, I didn't die. Instead, when Mr. Higashi finally decided that I'd had enough, he'd bowed me out and I'd collapse. Nothing at all was ever said. And yet I will never forget the lessons that I learned from my master. Now, I went in for surgery last week. You see how nice it is. It's just a little stitches that have to come out. It was broken, and they fixed it. But see, this finger has arthritis on it, and it's broken, and it can't be fixed. There are things that are broken that you can fix, and things that are broken that you can't fix. I have a broken brain. Just like my finger is broken, my brain is also broken. And there's all kinds of ways that I recognize that. I mean, I don't trust myself. My partner is away visiting with family, and I know very well that uh, I depend on her for all kinds of things. And uh, there was once upon a time when I was this young person who could lecture for 4 classes, 3 different preps. I would take care of all of the computer systems, the labs and things, teach my own colleagues, run a program. I could do all kinds of things. Those days are over. The brain is broken. I need rest now. I can do this show once a week, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. That's it. Fortunately, I don't worry about the arthritis in my fingers or the broken, shriveling brain in my head. I just remember what Mr. Higashi taught me. You don't need hope. Just try something. I tried something and it worked. Mr. Higashi allowed me to climb back onto my feet. And now, even more exhausted, panting yet, and I had to take my master's gi and try something else and something else after that until my master decided I was done. My friends, you need to surrender. It is the most powerful of all martial art moves, even more powerful than making a cup of tea. Let it go. Remember what Mother Mary has to say. Let it be. Let it be. Well, that's it for this week. I'll hope to be back next week again for another edition of More Bad News. In the meantime, take the Camel's Challenge, smoke camels for 30 days, and see for yourself what a difference it's going to make in your life. See you next week.